So I started using numberless word problems because I noticed that my students weren't actually thinking about the context of problems. I noticed, especially in first grade, that they would automatically just look at the two numbers that were in the problem and add them together. That was the first thing they did. And I also noticed that numberless word problems really make us focus on vocabulary, like some and fewer and more and fewer than or less than. So it really helps us understand what the problem is actually talking about, the context of the problem. So as I'm doing a numberless word problem, we discuss, hey, what is happening in the whole story. I always say make a movie in your head. Visualize what's happening in your head. So they do that, and then I'll add information piece by piece. Start out with one number and then add an additional one. So for example, if I said Rhonda had 16 bones and Misha had fewer bones than Rhonda, then we could have a discussion about, well, if Rhonda had 16 bones, we know that Misha's number has to be smaller if she had fewer. So what number could it be? And I just continue the discussion that way, constantly asking questions. Now what do we know? Now that we've been given this information, what do we know? And how does that change your thinking? It's really helped my students really just back up and actually think about the context of what's happening in the problem. And the most challenging part is the last part. What question could I be asking about this situation? And a lot of the times, again, in first grade, they'll immediately just go to how many do they have in all. But with numberless word problems, we've really talked about how it's not always just, hey, we're putting these numbers together. They'll eventually get to, okay, some kind of subtraction problem or understanding that maybe we could ask a comparing question. But it does typically come back to how many in all. So I've really just seen a greater understanding of math concepts, what's actually happening in word problems, and how do I go about figuring out how to solve them.